Might be his fault.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the East Coast Red and Gold podcast. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston. We got Sourdough Maddie and your girl Bex. What's going on,
We didn't
people?
make the playoffs. I'm sour at this point. Also, sourdough starter kits are like a huge thing right now. Like, I might as well get on the trend train. Choo choo.
There you go.
I hope everybody had a nice Christmas and New Year. This is our first
Yeah.
show of 2025, and we have quite a bit to talk about.
Wait, what? We do?
It's only been like 3 weeks, right?
Something happened. Yeah.
You know, and of course, the Niners wait till everybody on the East Coast is like sleeping to make some moves. Let's see. We got Throwback. What's up, Throwback?
What's up?
Gang.
Hey, Dawn.
Hey, Dawn.
Let's see.
Hello.
Rob
Shout
D.
out to
Bang Bang
everybody.
East Coast Niner Gang.
Right. New
Love
York
it.
in the house.
Woo! All right. So before we get started, if you need customized gear for next season or during the off season, because it's Niners all day, every day, go to faithfulgear209.com and get your Niners gear. Okay. So I don't really want to talk about the Cardinals game. I wasn't going to go there.
What is
But-
there to talk about? It was
Right.
basically like it was like a preseason game that counted,
was.
kinda, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, clearly Kyle didn't take it that seriously because he let Josh Dobbs play, which he wouldn't allow in Green Bay. And then after what I saw against Arizona, I still ask myself why he didn't start versus Green Bay, but that was weeks ago, and we can't ask that question anymore. So now we move on. But it was really nice, and they basically were like, "Yeah, Josh Dobbs isn't going to be back next year," and I'm still like, "Okay, that we want to do the Brandon Allen thing again. That sounds great." But anyways, yeah, like it was just. What was there? Like as I posted on Twitter, it was that South Park episode with Terrence and Phillip where they basically just fart in front of the jury. Like Nick Sorensen, like just the special teams, Brian Schneider, like the whole gang. Like it was a cast of characters. It was the perfect season finale, and they just went up and in their final arguments, they laid a big long one, what was called a monkey claw, probably, in front of the jury, and then they just sat down, and everybody's like, "Okay, well, and you're fired." Like that's basically what happened. Like that was a wrap. It was probably the perfect exclamation point on this season, quite frankly. Right? Like it was all encapsulated. There was no like, "Oh, they got it together for the final game of the year." No, there was none of that. It was literally 2024's greatest hits all rolled into one.
I was hoping that they would have finished strong.
Yeah.
And come out with a dub, but that didn't happen. But Maddie, you did mention Josh Dobbs, Brandon Allen, the Green Bay game. Do you honestly think that if we started Josh Dobbs, things would be different?
I felt
'Cause I
like
don't.
that. I still, that to me was the white flag game. That to me, when I go back and I look at this season, it was like that was like this season's white flag moment. It was like, okay, we're going to start the backup quarterback with the broken offhand in the weather, right? He's not mobile. In a game like that, you need somebody who's mobile and running around, right? There were so many other people missed that day. Like, I don't know. Do I think it makes a difference in the season? No. But do you give your best? But did they give themselves the best chance to turn around their season in Green Bay? No. Because once you lost that game, and then once you had the Buffalo game,
It's basically over. Yeah.
that was it. What that we said probably coming out of the Tampa game, they pretty much had to start running the table, right? We expected and hoped for 1-1 with Green Bay and Buffalo. They got swept. Tampa was the best team that this team beat all year. Tampa might not even make it out of the first round. So, yep, just
I got to that.
like, do I think it makes a difference? No, but boy, if they were going to have a shot, like, I would have rather had the Pastronaut playing in that game than 1.5 handed Brandon Allen. That's my 10 cents.
Yeah.
That's how you agree.
For the Green Bay game, yeah. We saw him with the ability just to help the offense move consistently. That's the point. It was a consistent moving of the offense, right?
Chain
exactly.
moving, right?
Chains were moving. He was completing passes, using his legs when he needed to. Things were kept off balance a bit. So we saw, okay, he's capable of running this offense. It was there. So I think in Green Bay, we would put up more of a fight. Remember, in Green Bay, we only scored 10 points. That was it. Just big old 10. We scored a lot more points on Sunday. So, we all questioned it when it happened. Like, why is Brandon Allen out there and his finger's broken? Hello. But, like, I don't get it. I see the Arizona game differently. I thought we went out strong once again, like we did against the Lions. We fought. It was a close game. It was competitive until we basically pulled everybody. Once guys started getting injured and we saw starters one by one started coming out, that's when things got away. It was basically our practice squad. Seems like we got the entire practice squad on the field, and they still have their ones out there. And that's when it really got away from us. So I thought guys played with heart, went out strong. And, it was good to see the young guys out there just getting reps. Hopefully that carries them into the offseason and into next season.
I guess maybe because I'm used to seeing this season, but I kind of felt like it was another, even though like they were pulling guys, Ty, like you mentioned, that it was just another second half collapse.
It was really fourth quarter when they got outscored 21-0. Then it really got away from them. That's when the turnover started happening, and you had no names out there, just couldn't do anything. It is what it was,
Fifth string running back, like.
Yeah.
I think that's more what I meant about the hits, right? Like, think about it. Like, all the people we lost this year, and then you lose like 6 in the final game. Like, we got lucky. Garendo didn't tear an ACL, right?
Yeah,
he should be okay. That was scary as hell, right? And you're just sitting here thinking, really? This is finally get one, and it's like, oh no, we're gonna kill his knee, right? Like, in a game that honestly we probably should have started Patrick Taylor anyway, maybe, right? If you're worried about the future for next year.
Yeah.
Debo didn't play. Kittle didn't play for long.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Saubert needed reps. Shut your mouth. Eric Saubert needs reps somewhere else. Go get a new backup tight end. Love him.
Yeah, he does. I'm not an Eric Saubert fan at all.
Give me a break.
Not at all.
Saubert.
Echo, what do you think?
Here.
Well, I was a big Juwan Jennings fan in the game, thinking that JJ went out there and was just playing with everything, which I love to see. But I mean, I agree. Somebody mentioned it before, the fourth quarter collapse. We've seen it all year long. We got outscored something like 150 some points to 80 points in the fourth quarter. And we've lost so many games in the final moments of games. And it's just another second half collapse. Like you said, Jess, this ship starts to list and takes on water. And by the fourth quarter, we're sinking. And it didn't matter. I don't think if for that game, who started or who sat, we weren't going to win that game. I just didn't see it happening that we were winning that game in any way. I think the gust was out of the sails for the team, and everybody knew it. And I'm happy George got his record, and and some of those little things. And we saw some flashes of good things out of some of the rookie players and the guys that were getting reps. So, that maybe bodes well for us next year, that a lot of our rookies and our practice squad players did get a lot of play time this season due to injuries. And hopefully that translates well next year. But, it just was terrible to watch.
Yeah. For those of you just joining us, welcome. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. How many games did we actually go without sacks?
Probably quite a few.
Seemed like a lot of them.
More than
Yeah.
half.
I mean,
yeah.
How many games did we go without sacks, no turnovers?
Brandon Staley was in charge of the turnovers, so that explains that. I read that today. I didn't know that. Did you know
Yes.
that? I did not
did
know that he was in charge of the. I didn't know you subletted the turnover department. Right, we're going to work on turnovers over here, and you had him do it. So D- there, but he's going to get a
Outsourcing.
shot to be defensive coordinator, which will be exciting. I can't wait for him to not get that job, so that we don't have him
will. We'll get into that.
Oh, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff, and don't forget, stay tuned, kids, because I have a absolute just long form story on Jake Moody, which is almost going to be interpretive dance. So yeah, we got all sorts of stuff coming up today.
Get your popcorn ready.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I already ate popcorn. Darn it.
I actually want to talk a little bit about the rookies.
Yeah.
Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, we saw.
He actually got used, didn't have a penalty. It was nice.
Yeah. Actually, yes, he did.
Oh, right. Okay. He didn't have as many penalties, and he didn't have a holding.
Yeah, the penalty in the game? I didn't see that one.
He lined up wrong, which I'm totally okay. You line up wrong, so be it. You get a holding, it's like, come on, man. Like, you're never going to get the field if you do that. Stop it. Stop it now.
I believe Dominic Pooney had 2 back-to-back penalties. But besides the penalties, Dominic Pooney, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green, those caliber of guys, that's what they need to go and do and go and get in the 2025 draft.
Yeah, they need another 5-pack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is actually like, I feel that this is actually the 2024 draft was probably like the first draft where they got, and I've said this before, that they've got players with a full boat of college experience.
Mm-hmm.
Bring
Almost
them into the NFL.
They learned that these guys need reps, and they're not going to get the reps at the pro level because there's just not enough time for development, right? They're just not.
Right.
So yeah, if that's what it is, hopefully that's a trend. I agree with you.
And aren't they changing the way college football rules are played, and people can stay longer? So you're going to have players opting to stay in college, and that's going to turn into a whole different way that players get selected in the draft too. Is you're going to have these guys coming in with near NFL experience. And you've got people like Belichick going to be head coaching UNC. What do you think? What kind of product's going to roll out of a college like that with him at the helm? I think that the way college is changing is going to change the entire draft dynamic for the NFL going forward in another year or two. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch, that rookies aren't going to just necessarily be shelved. They're going to come in with more like what we saw out of this draft class, a lot more experience and a lot more exposure to some of the things that are happening in the NFL at the college level.
Yeah, Bill Belichick was actually in Jersey today scouting. Fun
Check
fact.
that out.
A lot of good. Well, there's a few good football players in Jersey, so I could see where that would be happening. He also got a dude from UConn today who kicked North Carolina's ass at the Fenway Bowl recently. So he's already out there doing it.
Taken from the competition.
Yep.
The Belichick way.
I don't know how I feel about him wearing the powder blue though. Like I saw him in the suit and I was like, I don't know about that.
It doesn't matter as long as his 26-year-old girlfriend likes it.
Yeah, right.
Fiance,
That's true.
fiance.
Oh, fiance. Sorry.
Yes, fiance.
I didn't know. I didn't get the Christmas news.
Yeah, fiance. Just update that.
Hmm.
So did you guys know that before obviously it's out there now, but Clay Kubiak was calling plays for the season finale. Did you know that?
Somebody said something about that on the radio broadcast the other day, and then they didn't come back to it. Like it was like nobody really was like,
Kyle
I
said
don't.
it today in the
So,
presser.
Yeah.
and Kyle said it today in the presser, and then was like, oh, by the way, Clay's the offensive coordinator now. Congratulations, right? Like, poof.
Oh, and by the way,
So,
he's been doing it since last year.
Yeah, that's actually the first time that Kyle's actually gave someone the title of
Yeah.
offensive coordinator.
he didn't even give that to McDaniel. McDaniel was just the pass. Oh, no, he was the run game coordinator, I believe.
He was run
So,
game coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder Tyreek Hill's pissed off.
So let's talk a little bit about the press conference. There wasn't really a lot of like news to come out of it. You know, Clay Kubiak is the OC. We kind of knew that Javon Hargrave was going to be released. Post June 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to bring him back. I think we're gonna get Young there.
A lot of DJ Jones types available in this draft. Apparently, I think you're going to see a bunch of guys like that get picked up on the cheap.
Yeah.
That was one of those impulse expenses. They thought they were one piece away, and he'd be the piece. And turns out that was not the case.
Were you gonna say something, Ty?
No, I was just saying it didn't happen. He wasn't the guy. It didn't work out. So they're moving on.
Even before he got injured last year, like for him to be added to this team and their run game and their run defense to degrade the way it did, no matter who the defensive coordinator was, he was the consistent. And I don't know, it never seemed to be like that. And then after he got here, it was not. There was nothing. What's your favorite Javon Hargrave play?
Yeah, that's true.
He had a
He
sack
didn't do
in the
anything
Giants
like
game or something.
shattering.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which, yeah, right. Like, yeah, who has not sacked Daniel Jones? So,
Yeah. There you go.
Well, he actually he had last year he had a sack against who was the Steel Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett?
Pickett.
Kenny
Yes.
Pickett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in Pittsburgh. That's right. But
I'm
that was
mixing Kenny Pickett and George Pickens.
doesn't that seem
I do that all the time.
doesn't that seem like a long time ago, like forever ago? Like that was a very, very long time ago. So, yeah.
That would be
I hope-
awesome. Winning number 6, Super Bowl 60, 2026 at home field.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello there, Chris. How are you?
I might have a chance to get tickets at
Hey,
that
Chris.
point. So,
Ooh, that would be nice.
yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Brandon Staley. Based on what Kyle said in the press conference, how I kind of took it, because how people were like tweeting about it, like, oh my God, like he's a candidate. And then like you go back and you watch the press conference, it was just kind of like, yeah, he's in-house, gave him a shot. You know, he's here.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like he was actually going to get it, which is perfectly fine with me. I don't know why he's
Well,
not
it's
out
the
the door
courtesy of
yet.
giving your in-house people an opportunity to
right.
interview for the role. Yeah.
So what
Listen,
do you guys think? Ty?
He was in charge of the defensive backs, and the defensive backs had a pretty good year.
They did.
You see Deommodore Lenoir, the rise of Ronaldo Green. You know, it's like, all right, he's pretty good at that. If we could keep him at that, hey, let's keep him at that. And then, you know, we got to keep him here for a minute. Let's like, hey, you might have a opportunity to get the job. Just stick around.
If not,
Plus-
you can still coach the defensive backs. Right?
Exactly. And plus they're still waiting for guys to go through their interview process before they can offer them jobs. So they're probably thinking, all right, he might be the fall guy. He might be the fallback guy. You never know.
Like Nick
So-
Sorensen was last year.
Yeah. So it's good to just keep these guys around. He does have some value, like I said, with the defensive backs, but I took it the way you took it, Jess. Like he's not getting the job, but we want him around.
Yeah. What do you think?
I totally agree. Just the Kyle's tone on that was very like, yeah, we want him here, and we're going to give him a shot at it, but don't hold your breath, right?
Put
Like
your
at the
names
end-
out there. We're chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we'll go over those in a minute, I'm sure. But it's if it comes down to him or Ulbrich or Salah, which Salah could very easily get the Jacksonville job.
Right.
You know what? I don't know why anybody,
Or another job.
as long as Trent Baalke is there, I don't know why anybody would even interview with the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I hope I hope for a lot of guys they're like, listen, but the fun part was Shad Khan said the other day with him right in front of him, like, yeah, if somebody says they don't need him, like I'll get him out of here.
If
Trent
it's a deal
Baalke's like,
breaker, then Balky's
Yeah,
gone.
Yeah.
Right.
why is he even
He's
here
been
then?
around for like 5 firings already.
Yeah.
He's been around so many of them. Him and Tom Telesco. Like, how do you guys stick around with? How is Ryan Poles still hanging out in Chicago? Like, there's so many guys in this league that I'm just like, how are you doing it? Like Rich McKay down in Atlanta. Like, he's not really a general manager, but like he's in charge of football operations. And whenever Arthur Blank has something he needs done, he talks to Rich McKay about it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and also he's on the rules committee somehow, which gives him a job. He needs to have a job to be on the rules committee, I guess. I don't know. It's all weird. League is weird. They do weird things. Some teams do dumb things and some teams do really dumb things. You know what I mean? So see
David
what
McNiner
happens.
says our D-backs thrived under Wilkes. The turnovers last season were good. This season, not so much. Yeah. It was the defense had a stretch of playing well. And then other times it just kind of looked like, they did give it their all. I don't think this is a team where you can say, the San Francisco 49ers, they quit. Like this was just like, this was a tank season.
Only Devondre Campbell did.
Yeah, exactly. But they played hard all season. I mean, you could see it. You could tell.
Oh, they were
But-
angry. And you could tell they were angry because they were trying their hardest and they weren't getting the results, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And
they
it
were
just
doing
kind of,
their part to keep the game close enough to win it on a foot, and then we missed the field goal or the extra point.
I mean, we get the fact that, we play the wide 9. Okay. And obviously, like, it just seemed like they didn't know what the scheme was sometimes. It kind of looks scatterbrainish. What do you guys?
You could never tell if it was coaching or scheme, and that is scary to me because it usually should be fairly obvious, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, because it would be the same mistakes, but the mistakes would be for different reasons. So it could be communication, it could be understanding. I don't know, but hopefully whoever they get in knows what's going on.
I also feel like injuries, and now you have the next man up, and sometimes communication and coordination are just off. And we had that, I feel like, all the way around. What was the thing I saw that said Kittle, BA, McCaffrey, and Debo were never on the field at the same time at all this season. Never took a snap together once.
Nope.
So, I mean, that tells you right there, you're out of sync from the first snap of the season, and it just felt very disjointed and discombobulated the whole entire season long. Like we never seemed to be able to put it together and hold it together. We start strong and then fall apart in the second half.
Yeah, to me, it was just execution defensively and offensively. Like, guys just weren't on the same page for 60 minutes, throughout games, and in crucial times we would see, like Rebecca hit the nail on the head. Communication and execution, just stuff was just off. It's just off, and it'll doom you every time. Every time. When you're like defensively, if you're running that wide 9 and you need somebody to fill that A or B gap because you're leaving that natural space, right? You want people to go there so you can fill it. And you attack it with your linebackers, and your linebacker is tripping up the other linebacker, and you're just getting gashed. It's like 59, you need to go home. It's stuff like that. So it was just that way all season. It was just off, completely off and weird. So I agree with what Kyle said. It's like a lot of games, they were in the games and they could have finished them and won, and we would have been 8-2 and everything. And we've seen it. There were a lot of games where they just collapsed at the end. We remember that Rams game at the beginning of the season. We were up with 3 minutes to go, and then all 3 phases collapsed, just fell off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened. It's like invasion of the body snatchers. Mm-hmm. They were just gone. So it's weird. It's a head scratcher. But that was the 2024 season.
Captain Niners says there was no scheme. It was more plain than vanilla. No blitzing, no stunting up front, nothing to disguise the D.
There was a lot of that. I mean, Kyle even said, there was a lot of it. There was a mix. Kyle said there was a lot of mix of schematics and players. Now, here comes and player injuries and availability. Does the availability of certain players affect the scheme? I would probably hope so, right? We all witnessed what happened in the Super Bowl last year when Dre Greenlaw got hurt, and we saw who they targeted afterwards, right? Like, it doesn't matter who you stunt if your stunt man isn't that good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't. Even the players were all like, listen, like they all pretty much knew, right? They're like, I don't make these decisions, but we didn't. Fred Warner said we didn't do him any favors. So it could. There's plenty of blame on both sides, but at the end of the day, you can't fire every player. So
you need them more.
Yeah.
I know when you need a single first down to win a game, and it goes, and your number one wide receiver drops the ball, and you don't get your first down. Like you can't make that up. It just those things happen a lot, and poor execution is exactly the reason why we lost a lot of the games. You can't miss every field goal and extra point and think you're going to win.
Just think of. Oops, sorry. Just quick point on execution. Just think of that. Sunday night, Monday night Rams game in Levi's. We run the slant to Debo, and I've talked about this before. The bread and butter plays. We run that slant to Debo. Brock hits him right in the bread basket. He drops it. That's a play we've run a ton of times. Running in our sleep, right? Poor execution. The very next week versus the Dolphins, we run the exact same play. Debo catches it, runs over 2 guys, and scores a touchdown. The exact same play. One week it was not executed. The next week it was. That's been the story of this season.
Yeah.
And you knew exactly what play I was talking about. Like you put it in the hands of your number one person, and they drop the ball.
Look at how many interceptions there were this year off of balls getting batted in the air.
Yes.
Right, depending on who you threw to, when you threw to them, et cetera, right? That was an occurrence for a little while, and then Brock just started throwing it straight at people. But a lot of them were just kind of boinked up. But that's the other thing too. This defense wasn't strong enough to hold up without an elite offense, and this offense wasn't anywhere near elite this season at any point in time. Right? It was good at times. It was okay in spots, and it was just absolutely inconsistent and terrible in others, right? Like it was not the type of this was the type of defense that you need to be a front runner on, right? You need to get scores up and really get the scores up, right? 4 touchdowns, not 1 touchdown and 3 field goals. And that was the difference this year. They were a lot better. If you go back and look at last year, weren't that great in the fourth quarter, really the last couple years. But leads are a hell of a lot bigger in the fourth quarter last year as opposed to this year, right? Like 28 points, 29 points, 30 points, like those 20-point leads. There's a big difference with a 20-point lead and a 16-point lead. And it felt like every time the 49ers were up this year, even when it felt like they were really playing well, man, they're only up 2 scores. How are they only up 2 scores? And it seemed like every time we were down, even when the stats were kind of in our favor, we were down by 9 to 17 points every time. We were always down by 2 scores if it was late, or 3 scores if it was like kind of in the fourth quarter. You're like, man, we're already down 3 scores. How did this happen?
Because you layer in a terrible special teams giving away field position that puts the opponent in
giving
a
away
prime
points
spot to score. Rather than have them backed up, they would, be at the 50 already and in the red zone in 2 plays. And
here comes a good return, holding.
Yeah.
Here comes a good return, holding.
Exactly.
Doink off the crossbar. Doink off the crossbar. Like those little point things, like they add up. They add up. They add up. Like if you don't put the change in the piggy bank, don't be shocked when the piggy bank is empty. And the piggy bank was empty for this team a lot this year. And special teams gave up way too many points. Again, the offense wasn't good enough this year to cover up the special teams either. And the special teams actually went out of this way this year to be the absolute worst special teams possible, right? Like honestly, if they had I posted the other day, if they had ChatGPT do it and just kick the ball out of bounds every single time on kickoffs and other things, like I've never seen anything like it. Every game there was a bad play, usually more than one. How many more times are we going to get pantsed on a fake punt? How many more times every year? You can set your friggin' watch by it.
It's terrible.
Ridiculous.
So going back to the offense, though, I think the only game that they really kind of clicked was the Bears game.
That was it.
Yeah.
You could see the signs of it in the Patriots game, but that was the game that concerned me because they should have been up 28-35 to nothing in the first 2 quarters of that game. And it was field goal, field goal, field goal, field goal. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. What? Like that was the first time, and they just couldn't over the top after that, right? They just could not get that going for 4 quarters again until the Bears game. And then of course there was the Arizona game when Josh Dobbs got to let loose, or Clay Kubiak's Ferris Bueller day, I guess you could call it.
Nah, that Patriots game, they were bad in that one. You remember they didn't score. Fred Warner scored the first touchdown.
Well, yeah, and they had chances to do more, and like they couldn't.
That's what I mean. They couldn't score. That was my mantra all season. We were not scoring touchdowns offensively. And in that game, Fred scored first. It was like, geez, thank you. Show him I was done, Fred. And they only scored 2 touchdowns after that. And that's kind of been our average all year. We're scoring just a mere 2 touchdowns. And it's like, all right, well, 14 points from the offense. That means the defense has got to basically pitch a shutout. Like,
I'm sorry. Did you say 14 points? It's 13 points, sir. You only hit 50% of your extra points. So,
even so, it was like, dude, like we need more touchdowns. Get in the end zone.
Fred didn't hurt his foot on that play, but Fred did hurt his foot in that game, and it was never the same.
That was the game
after that.
Yeah,
and was probably on his way to like defensive player of the year level play.
He was out of his mind.
Was crushing it.
He was out
and
of
then
his
he
mind.
decides to play with a freaking broken bone in his ankle. That's insane. Like I hope it doesn't screw up his career, and he ends up with some Patrick Willis thing where they're like, oh well,
Well, apparently he doesn't need surgery for it, so that's a good thing.
Good.
Yeah. Just needs to get off of it. Just get off your feet.
Yeah, just rest. Going back to the defense, David McKnight, our run defense wasn't good for most of the year. I wouldn't be opposed to going away from the wide 9. Leonard Floyd is a linebacker and a 3-4 edge in the wide 9. I know Kyle and John said that they were open to anything.
Yep.
So I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, I think this season was a gut punch to the 49ers, to make the changes as far as special teams. I mean, we had said this too, that, everyone was calling, Maddie, I know you were calling for Brian Schneider's head all season, but they weren't going to make the changes during the season. That's just not what they do.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
However, I'm actually surprised of how quickly they made those, announcements.
Yeah. Just real quick, I'm going to say something about the wide 9.
Go ahead.
I truly think it's a personnel issue there, because remember the Rams game on that Sunday night when all the King's horsemen were back in the lineup, when Bosa was there, when Greenlaw was there, when Huff was there. The Rams couldn't run the ball.
Rams didn't score a touchdown in that game.
They could not run the ball either. It wasn't until Greenlaw went out and then Bosa went out that all of a sudden they could move the ball. You see the difference? The personnel in that wide line makes a difference.
Also, how many snaps they have to take on defense does, because the offense isn't holding up their end of the bargain, because the offense decided let's go ahead and not score in that game.
At all.
So,
at all.
At all. Let's just not.
Yeah.
No touchdowns today. We don't need it. So also going back to what you said, just on the point of the timing, Kyle said today that he had exit interviews with everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Brian Schneider was fired before any exit interview, so he was not soliciting feedback from anybody.
No.
But Nick Sorensen was a defensive coordinator yesterday, and now after the exit interviews, Nick Sorensen is not the defensive coordinator, even though he did get positive feedback on him. So clearly he got positive feedback on him to keep him around, but not positive feedback good enough to keep him as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Javon Hargrave is going to be too expensive.
Yeah.
I don't think
Needs
that's
some more Malik.
Yeah.
Needs some more Malik Collins types and pre-Denver DJ Jones and guys like that. I would expect maybe their first rounder or their second rounder is going to be a big meaty defensive tackle as well. So, we got a lot of time to go to look at the draft and everything like that. I can't wait to watch the Senior Bowl to see some guys that are there, but it is kind of nice to know that they're going to have time to really analyze these guys this year and not have to be worried about NFC title games and Super Bowls while doing that, right? Like I would much rather them focused on title games and Super Bowls, but you do need to draft people to be able to get there once in a while. So that's a thing. It's important.
Maddie, you mentioned the Senior Bowl. I don't know if you listen to NFL radio.
A little bit too much,
but they had Jim Nagy on.
Jim's great.
That time of year,
and he would they were talking a lot about the trenches, offensive line, defensive line.
It's a real good draft for that. That's why there's that everybody keeps talking about the quarterbacks, but the quarterbacks this year, a lot of people like the way the quarterbacks looks this year, and we should probably get our draft guru on again. But a lot of the quarterbacks this year probably would have been taken. A lot of the quarterbacks that were taken last year, almost every one of them, all the way down to Bo Nix, probably would be the number 1 overall pick this year. Is basically the consensus, right? If you compare to all of them, Drake May, Gene Daniels, whatever. They said Gene Daniels would be the number 1 pick any other year, but Caleb Williams was the pick last year. But they said if this was the year, Bo Nix, whatever, that's what it is. Now it could be wrong, it could be right, but the years that they've been right before, they have been, but they've also I always go back and look at the Christian Ponder year, right? Because nobody thought Christian, but he got drafted in the first round, right? Somebody will, whether they're worth it or not, something will happen throughout the draft. Somebody else will do something, and there's so much uncertainty right now. You don't know who's going to be coaching anywhere. The Titans just fired their general manager. There's just Rand Carthon could be coming back, So there's a lot of bands getting back together, I think, and a lot of new bands that are going to be starting here real soon. So it's going to be a wild, wild west here for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So as far as defensive coordinator goes, who is your pick, Becca?
Well, I mean, I would like to see Rob Saleh come back, but I think, you know, he's going to be wanting a head coach job. I think, you know, you can look at Jim Harbaugh. He pulled his old buddy Greg together and a few dudes that he trusts, and look what he's already done to turn, you know, the Chargers around. So I don't think it's a bad thing to bring somebody back who was really great for us and have him come back. There seems to be mutual interest, which I think, you know, bodes well for both parties. So I would start there as who I'd like to see, you know, come back. I mean, the others are, you know, unknowns for the team. So it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, kind of thing. So we had a lot of success with him. So I can't say I wouldn't want to bring him back. So as a first choice.
Yeah, per Josina Anderson, the Niners are going to make an offer to Robert Saleh.
Mm-hmm.
Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, I have no preference. I just want an experienced guy, someone who's been doing this. You know, hopefully, just give me a defensive coordinator lifer. One of those guys who've been there for a long time, calling defenses, has had success calling those defenses. You know, we're like, his defenses giving them hell. Like one of those guys, and they're out there. So just be smart and grab one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need a star defensive coordinator. One that, you know, obviously is in charge of the defense, but can kind of reassure Kyle, like, okay, you just worry about the offense. Like, don't worry about us, you know? I mean, even though Kyle like oversees everything, but it seemed like Kyle micromanaged a lot this season.
Well, he's got to get that trust in his DC again, right?
Right.
Like he had that with Salah at one point, where it's like,
He had that with D'Amico
as well. Like, all right, you do you.
Which is why those 2021 and 2022 defenses were so good, right? Like, the guy I want is Lou Anarumo. I thought that dude was amazing in Cincinnati. They kept taking players away from him every year, really good players, and he just kept making chicken salad out of chicken shit, like all the time, right? And also the Bengals, fun fact, are in kind of a position where they're going to have to get rid of some guys. And let me tell you, if you could get Lou Anarumo in here and maybe get, I don't know, a Trey Hendrickson on the other side of Nick Bosa, because Trey Hendrickson has a little bit of a contract problem. And they've got a little problem with like being able to, you know, pay T. Higgins and other things. You put Trey Hendrickson on the other side of Nick Bosa and then maybe move.
It's a wrap.
Thank you. Like, let's get some legitimate help for Nick Bosa, right? Not Leonard Floyd a year too late. Like, let's get somebody either kind of in their prime or right to the other thing, right? Like, he played that 1 year in Buffalo, and it was like, right? Like, just...
He did have 8.5 sacks, though, Maddie. And you were banging the table for him last season.
He wasn't...
to get the 10, got 8.5. So he was in the area.
And the other thing too, like he's definitely he's not Charles Haley reincarnated. He's definitely more of an outside linebacker than a defensive end, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to be Reggie Whiting a lot of people. So I think getting him in the best position for him to be in, and he also I think he played a lot more snaps than they really wanted him to this year as well.
Yeah,
I think they probably wanted him. That was the other part of the problem. Like he was overused this year. But like I said, I think if he'd been in here a year ago, his stats would have been way better than what they were in Buffalo. So, and he was overused. Like they were still playing him late, like throughout the year. Like, let's get Leonard. If we're keeping this dude, let's keep him out of there. But yeah, to me, he should be like your third pass rusher, right? You need another guy on the other side. I don't care if it's Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, like shoot for the friggin' moon and get whoever you want on the other side. But you need some sort of impact player so that Nick Bosa can go off. Because when Nick Bosa can go off, that defense has the opportunity to do other things. But if he's getting double teamed and held, then nobody else is doing anything. And like you get the Leonard Floyd stuff once in a while, but he's not. People aren't worried about him. You know, it's not like Reggie White and Sean Jones or those '90s Packers, right? Or some of the, like OCU Manure and Michael Strahan, or Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan. Like those, you need that 1-2 on the line, and they have not yet given him that. I feel like they haven't really had that since, I don't know. It's been a bit. I know having Justin Smith on the line back in the day, like on the end of it, like that made a huge difference, right? Like same sort of deal. Trey Hendrickson kind of reminds me a little bit of Justin Smith in that regard.
Yeah.
And like it would just be perfect. You get Anarumo and him over there. And I don't want somebody different. I want somebody outside of the echo chamber. Like I think sometimes that coaching room gets a little too into smelling their own farts, right? Like get somebody from the outside in who's actually played you and like and scouted you and has been like, hey, these are some other things. Like I don't know if you guys heard that story today about Northern Illinois' coach calling Marcus Freeman to talk about how they figured out how to beat Notre Dame, and Notre Dame hasn't lost since, right? Like they talked about it. That's the sort of thing I want. I want more outside information coming in to more efficiently self-scout so they can get better. But and to me, Lou Anarumo is one of those Wade Phillipsy types of guys, right? Like I don't expect him to ever be a Dick LeBeau. I don't ever expect him to be a head coach somewhere, but I bet he would be a defensive coordinator for a really long time, and I'm sure Kyle would trust him.
And he's put up a good defense against Kansas City.
Look, that Cincinnati, there was nothing on that sense. It was Trey Hendrickson and just some people this year. And there were times this year where that Cincinnati defense was holding them up until like they could get Joe Burrow like more than 1 second to throw the ball. Like it was crazy for a while. Like they weren't able to hold up as much, but man, they really had nothing. They gave him nothing to work with and then threw him out the door. So that Cincinnati defense was really good in the year they went to the Super Bowl, and it's been really good when they made it to the playoffs. It's been really good with even with players like Jesse Bates and guys like that leaving. So to me, that's a dude. You want experience with a good resume? Sign me up.
I actually, on the defensive side of the ball, I thought we were very top heavy. I think, obviously we need somebody on the opposite side of Nick Bosa, but we also need like proper depth behind him as well, because I think he played too much.
Yeah.
The rotation was not. We went from having that big full rotation, like even when Kevin Givens and other guys were out there in previous years, you might get that sack, right? It didn't matter who was on the field. Everyone was fresh. They were doing their thing, and then this year it was definitely not the case.
Yeah, the injuries played a big part in that.
Huge.
Because remember, Gross Matos was out for a while. Kevin Givens was out for a while. We lost Hargrave. So I think it threw everything off. That's why Leonard Floyd had to be out there so much, like playing on rundowns. And he's not an every down run defender. That made us light in the box. That was part of the rushing reason. We were very light. I remember one game we had Floyd and like some other guy who weighs only like 260 in there. And it's like, we're just getting pushed around because we don't have enough weight. There's not enough fat on the field. Like we need more fat out there.
We need more meat, more ass sweat. Again, our ass sweat ratio this year was way too low.
It was too low.
Talked about that in preseason.
Sweat ratio was none.
None.
It was not
we
good
solved
enough.
the problem with
Nope.
Yeah, my picks though, Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, or Gus Bradley. Not necessarily in that order. I know Kyle was trying to go after Gus Bradley a few years ago. So
and Jeff Ulbrich last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they said
I
Olber's
know.
going to become available depending on what happens with the head coaching situation with the Jets. He could get
Right. Right now, he's
Yeah.
still
fired.
under contract. So
Him and that whole
um,
Jets, I guess he's under that, and like a lot of the Cowboys coaches are too. So that's a
Cowboy.
whole.
Actually, it was announced today that the Cowboys assistants are done. Like their contracts
really?
are up. So because
Ah,
people were saying about
McCarthy.
John Fossil.
yes, John
Oh,
Fossil.
Jim Fossil.
Yes,
Yeah.
for special teams.
He
Rob
could
D
get
says
old
that he
bones.
thinks Salad's going to drag it out and we'll miss out on Ulbrich. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I know they're going to offer to Salah. Josina Anderson said that Robert Salah has an interview with the Jaguars on Tuesday, and then possibly maybe another interview after that.
Yeah.
I think the Niners want to wrap this up rather quickly
Yeah.
because they want to start getting into personnel.
Right away. Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
So
I agree.
And
I think
it's going to also.
Kyle said as much today too when he talked
Yeah.
about the defensive coordinator. He
Yeah.
said like I want to get that guy in here because I want to know what we need to do and who we need to get.
Exactly.
right.
Yeah. So
So-
I don't think. Yeah. I disagree with Rob. Rob, I disagree with you. I don't think he'll drag it out. Dude, there's only 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That old saying. Like if you get one, you get offered one, you're probably going to take it, unless it's an absolute shit show. Right? So he's going to do what's best for him and his family and his career and weigh that out. Now, if Kyle and John, take him out to dinner, wine and dine him and be like, hey, buddy, we love you. Here's a fat contract, right? We're like, you could
No
be with
salary
us.
cap on coaches.
You could be with us. Exactly. Sway him a bit to get him in here quicker. More power to him. But I don't think he will intentionally drag it out. He's just going to go through the process, just like all these other coaches that are being considered.
Well, and that was what I was going to say is we're going to have to also look at the Jets timeline for their coaching interviews too. So if they take a long time to get a new head coach, that could hold up, Ulbrich getting released.
They don't still have a GM. Right. They're a whole other mess, right? But they've got to start getting going because they need not only a coach, but they need a GM. And if they need a coach, then the coach has to pick the GM if they're doing it that way. Like,
They may
or
be going back to
It's
Rex
the way it
Ryan.
should be.
it might be it might be, maybe it's Woody Johnson's teenage kids. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. Don't really care. But, it does affect everything that's going on here. It will hold some things up quite a bit. So, yeah. But if Jeff Ulbrich's still under contract, like,
Right.
you may not have to miss out on him because he might be there. But,
Yeah.
was the Jets defense so great this year? Like, it was good, I think, before and had a chance to be good before he took over as head coach.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell it affected them when Salah left, and then
Yep.
their defense
Yep.
wasn't nearly as.
There was
Nearly as
there was
tough.
a graphic
Agreed.
that everybody keeps retweeting that when Salah was there, they were like first and second in a lot of the
Mhm.
categories, and then with
Yeah.
him being gone, they were crap.
It just crapped out. Yeah.
Yeah. David McNiner says, "What about Eberflus?" No, I'll pass.
No, thank you.
I know he's a terrible head coach, but I don't think so.
Did those
Um,
Bears defenses ever really strike fear into your hearts? No,
No.
not particularly.
They played
So-
well in stretches, but no.
Not
No.
dominantly, right?
Yeah. It wasn't consistent
Mm-mm.
like we want. Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah,
Salah is really good friends with Khan, so
Yeah.
he may be answering to the owner there. And if Salah goes to Khan and says, "I'll take this job," but he's out,
He's out.
well, maybe Salah can get his own guy. Maybe him and Joe Douglas decide to go down there, right? I don't know. There's a lot of dominoes to fall there.
hoping, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces there, but I'm kind of
Mhm.
hoping that Salah's like, nah, you know what? I want to go with the team that, has the best chance to go back to the Super Bowl.
Well, if I'm
That's what
him,
I'm
I
hoping
ask myself two questions. One, what is Jed going to pay me? Because you can't just move your family out to the Bay Area for a year, right? You got to have a place out there and do your stuff. But two, what is my best chance to get into the best position to succeed? Right? Like, is leaving the Jets after being fired this year and then going to the Jags and whatever's going on
That's what
there.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Is that just a rebound, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I pivot, come here, maybe go to an NFC title game, win a Super Bowl, go to a Super Bowl, which, they could rebuild this thing. They should easily, if they have another decent draft this year, they could easily get back this year based on the schedule
Yeah.
that I'm looking at. I don't care when the dates are. I don't see a lot of primetime games in there. Guys, we're going to have a lot of Sundays at 1s and Sundays at 4s this year. Okay. Just the way we like it.
Exactly.
All right. So
no problem with that.
It's great. Yeah. I don't have
I
a problem with
want
that.
the best person possible who is going to maximize the talent on that defense so that there is never again a fourth quarter collapse, that this team is better in the fourth quarter. Like, we were all spoiled. We grew up when the fourth quarter of Super Bowls came around, like in 89
It was a
and
lot.
94. The
Yeah.
fourth quarters,
Yeah.
there was nobody gave a rat's ass what was happening to the fourth quarter of that game.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Matt Millen,
we already
89, Matt
celebrating.
Millen's joking on the sideline.
Yeah.
Roger Craig's joking on the sideline.
Uh-huh.
And then, Steve Young is getting monkeys thrown off his back on the sidelines in the fourth quarter, right? Like,
Yep.
yeah, the two against Cincy were close in the fourth quarter, but the other two were not in any way. I want to go back to that. That is what I want. I want those laugher fourth quarters where we're all like, yeah. That's this generation of fans needs that, because it's been 30 years, 30 and fixing to be 31, and they have had some gut-crushing losses, right? Like they don't have those older memories to go back to.
No.
That's why I went with the title of the thumbnail, reset, because I think, not only do the 49ers need a reset, I think the fans do as well. Jason says that Jets requested to interview Steve Spagnuolo.
I love that. Get him the job tomorrow.
Exactly.
Please. On behalf of the rest of the National
Raiders
Football
actually
League.
requested to interview him too.
Yeah.
That
I don't
would
think
be
he'd go to the Raiders.
Even better. Do it. Same division.
That would
do it.
Yeah.
Hey, look, if they
Like,
decide to get a long-term offensive coordinator there, why not? I don't care. I don't care if the job works for him, but like he hasn't had a job since he left Philadelphia in terms of that.
Yeah.
So even if on behalf of everybody else in the league, they can get that defense to crack up a little bit, like, let's go. Like that would it would begin to end in Kansas City at that
Can you do
point,
that one more
right?
time?
We're gonna make a GIF out of that.
Yeah.
Mark Davis, Woody Johnson, open up the checkbook, baby.
Please, I will donate. You will get a $49 donation to the charity of your choice. I promise. On behalf of Niners NE, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Rob D says, who could possibly replace Dre Greenlaw? Well, it's not set in stone that Dre Greenlaw is going elsewhere. Kyle made it clear today that they don't even know yet. That they didn't sit down with everybody. So the players don't know whether they're coming or going. There's a lot of different moving parts to that. But Dre Greenlaw is definitely a necessity for this defense. When he's out there, the little time that he was out there this season, you could tell a difference.
Yep.
I know we're all in agreement with that. Yeah, I agree with Jason. As long as DFF isn't in consideration.
No, that's not going to happen, because if it is, then they're not actually taking this thing seriously, and then it's really just like a Jerry Jones Carnival Barker thing where they're just like, oh yeah, we're really serious about it. Wink, wink, like that. At that point, that's what it is.
DFS is a special teamer, backup linebacker.
Right.
So
third, fourth string. Like he should not be in a game unless there is an emergency, right? So
like the Rams game.
Like the Rams game, or
Yeah.
the second half of the Super Bowl, right? Like we saw it with Dre Greenlaw. I just don't think anybody is going to say, you know what, let's throw a ton of money at this guy coming off of an Achilles injury. And maybe that's something we want to thank somebody like, say, I don't know, Kirk Cousins for, right? Because,
good call.
like he didn't look that great this year coming off the Achilles injury. And Rodgers had his moments this year too, but also the fact that he got hurt again right afterwards. Oh, well, that's an overcompensation injury. Teams are like I don't want to just dump 30, 40 million guaranteed into a guy who played 1.5 games last year and is coming off an Achilles injury, right? Like, I I think his market will be good because there's, all those Texans, Packers, right? All the teams that play similar styles and like to rip things off from us. Um, I just don't see any of them like kind of overpaying. Now, if a bad team decides to overpay him, right? Because they're trying to jump into relevancy, that's my major concern. Like what Tennessee did with Aziz Al-Shire
And they got a
a couple
lot of
years
money
ago,
still.
right? And they're going to have a ton of money this year, and they're looking to do whatever. So, although I don't think they're going to be running the 49ers defense anymore since Rand Carthon's out of there, so I don't know how that whole thing
Yeah,
goes. Um, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's put it that way.
yeah, it's not set in stone.
Mm-mm.
Still fluid. There's a lot of things at play, beside the other teams that will throw money at Dre. Because remember, when Dre Greenlaw is right, he's one of the best linebackers in football, period.
Mhm.
Not just on this team, not just in the NFC, all of football. He's one of the best, period. So teams
100%.
will covet that. And we saw in that one half of football, he looked like one of the best linebackers in all of football, period.
Yep.
So he definitely will have a market. It's just what that market is. The other thing is he has never been a free agent before. Remember, he came in rookie contract. We signed him to an extension. This is his first time being able to test the free agent market. What can he get? He's coming off of a big injury. We missed the whole year. You might be thinking of, all right, I need to get a big payday because you just never know. He got hit running. I mean, he got injured running onto the field. It wasn't even a hit.
Yeah.
That's football. Anything can happen. So, he's going to do what's best for him. Hopefully what he decides was best is staying and they can work something out because all of us would love to have him back.
The one guy that I don't think will be back is Talanoa Hufanga.
Really?
I don't think.
I think it's just Mooney Ward that won't be back. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Talanoa.
No, I don't think Mooney Ward will be back just based on what he had said.
100%, and that's
which
totally justified and understood. And I
Yes.
can't believe that dude showed up to work every day when pieces of
Yeah.
human garbage, like formerly known as Number 59, did the things that they did. Right?
Yeah.
Like when you like that, just really chaps my ass, quite frankly. To use yet another old school phrase, but yeah, that's the sort of thing. But yeah, to your point though, just the safety market is not what you would call a robust money making sort of thing. So if somebody does want to get him, I could totally see it. Like maybe Houston needs a safety, or whatever. I think he could be back. I really do, because there was definitely a difference in that secondary when he was healthy and playing,
Oh no,
as opposed to
I
when
agree
he
with
wasn't
you.
healthy and playing. So
I agree with you. I just don't think, because they got younger at not saying that he's old, but because they got younger at the position. I don't know. I don't see it, but I definitely agree with you that, just like Dre Greenlaw, you can definitely tell a difference with him being out there.
Yeah, I think I know he loves it here.
Yeah.
He's at home here. He's a West Coast guy.
yeah,
Close to home. Like he wants to be here. And I know that for a fact. So I think they can work something out. Now, the only problem is, here comes some other team with 80 million in cap space. Like, hey, Hufanga,
Rams,
we love you.
right?
Oh, I got some money right here.
Well, those old
there's
USC
a ton
guys.
of cash,
Rams and
Guys
old
got money
USC
laying
guys,
around.
right? Like, yeah,
That's actually my wife's money. Got to put that back before I get in trouble.
Exactly.
it's not even mine.
Miss Debbie says, I see Greenlaw equals Patrick Willis 2.0.
Same sort of vibes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And speaking of Patrick Willis, the last time we had the 11th pick in 2007, we selected Patrick Willis.
And
Better.
fun
How about
fact, before that draft, somebody asked me who the 49ers should select. And I said Patrick Willis from Mississippi. He would be perfect. And they drafted him at
I was
number
calling for
11.
him
And I
too.
was
Yeah.
never so happy in my life. I'm like, wow, they actually listened to me.
Me either. My future husband,
Still got time on that.
I know. I'm still working on it.
That's the
Still
best
working on
part of
it.
a future husband. Like, they don't know.
They
Oh,
don't
he
know.
knows.
They don't know till they
I
know.
proposed to him and
Oh wait,
I
she's seen him
proposed
plenty of
to him.
times. Yeah.
He knows now.
and
Yeah.
out in Arizona.
Yeah.
I was first in line. I said I had to be first so I could ask for your hand in marriage before any of these other fools in line get to.
Well, there you go. Well,
Yeah, I
shout out
was
to
second
Mr.
in line.
Banks. You know.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little special teams. I know that's a hot topic. With Brian Schneider gone.
Wasn't so special.
Yeah.
It was special in the
Special
not great
pal?
way. Right.
Special.
It was special in the condescending way. Yeah.
Yeah. With Brian
Special in the
Schneider
bless your
gone.
heart way.
Mhm.
I have a funny story about that, but I will tell you off air.
Okay.
With with Brian Schneider gone, is this a fresh start for Jake Moody, or is Jake Moody gone too?
Everybody go ahead because I have. This is where I'm going to do my Jake
Alright,
Moody
Becca.
thing. So you guys do your thing.
Oh, go ahead. Becca. Yeah.
I think Jake Moody is gone. I don't think it's a fresh start for him. I mean, I could see them keeping him, but also I think he's gone though. I know he spent some high draft capital on him,
Yeah, third round pick.
but his performance has not been. I don't know. I think he's gone.
Yeah, I think he's gone too. We, like Maddie alluded to before, like we left a lot of points.
Yeah. Too many.
And yeah, I just
And who said it?
let's get somebody off the street. Let's, I mean the guys that we had, Wright and the other guy,
Carlson.
Carlson. They did great. They did well, I thought. So
that's what somebody else said too. Like Detroit literally picked a bricklayer off the street, and he's doing great. So kickers aren't that hard to find and to get.
Yeah.
And so I really think that Moody's going to be gone. But
yeah, that's what most kickers come from. They just get picked off the street. Like, oh, this guy can kick. All right, let's give him a shot. Here you go, league minimum. Yeah, he was. Miss Debbie said it. He was Schneider's pick. So I think whoever we bring in, they're going to want to bring in their own kicker, put him through the paces, and probably select them. That's just the way it goes. And for Jake Moody himself, I think he has a case of the yips, and we've seen it. Once a guy gets the yips, they can't get rid of it, and it affects them. So he's got some inner demons that he has to deal with.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Maddie.
So Ty set this up perfectly. That is 100% the case.
What I do. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Like, I appreciate you. It was absolutely, Ty just wrote the forward to the book, basically. It was really exciting. For those of you, I don't know how many who attended
the big money.
Right? Yes, exactly. Woo, make it rain. So I don't know I don't remember who attended the Cowboys playoff game a couple of years ago, but at the beginning and before the Cowboys playoff game, Robbie Gould is on the field, right? And he is just the world famous Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders are out there while he's trying to do his kicks.
They showed that on TV. Yeah,
they're rocking out, right? And it was worse than what they showed on TV. This went on for a very, very long time. But Robbie Gould was completely nonplussed about it. Did not give a single F about them, how close they were, how anything was going on. He just nailed every single kick from every spot on the field, no matter what was going on around him. He got his work in and he left, right? And I never forgot that. I was like, damn. And then, of course, the next week, we saw what happened in Green Bay. Compare that to what I saw in Miami 2 weeks ago. Everybody's warming up, and the Miami Dolphins cheerleaders come out. Now, the Miami Dolphins cheerleaders are kind of like disjointed, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. They had cheerleaders in like, they kind of had them like 3 spots of the field, but they were all like different spots of the field, and they like popped out of nowhere. They're like, surprise! Like, here we are. And they've got this like kind of angled flying V a little bit, like Mighty Ducks. And they were kind of near Moody, but not like Robbie Gould was like in the middle of them. Like he was in the middle of a Cowboys cheerleaders music video, and he was just boom, boom, boom. They were like maybe 5 yards, maybe 10 yards away from him. And they hadn't even started their thing yet. They were just lining up. Moody's lining up for a 50-yard field goal from the right hash, going as you're looking on TV from right to left. Okay. So he goes and he's about to line up his field goal, and then he turns around and hissy, huffy, just picks up his tee, that metal tee that they use, and kind of moves forward about 10 yards like a pissed off kid, right? Takes his kick, not shitting you, doinks it right off the upright. Like, right, he made it 10 yards closer and went boink. This was, I don't know, there was 45, there was quite a bit of time left before anything was happening. I'm like, this dude is cooked. He needs a sports psychologist. He needs a fresh start somewhere else. It is absolutely not going to work for him here. He's probably got all the talent in the world. He's got all the leg strength in the world. But it's just not going to work here for him. And that happens with kickers a lot. A lot of times they just do not work out with the first team. Sebastian Janikowski was one of those few dudes that was like drafted really way too early for a kicker and still panned out. I call it the Scott Bentley disease. For those of you who may have remembered college football in the early 90s, Florida State could never beat Miami, ever. Wide right, all the time. And they recruited this kid by the name of Scott Bentley. He was the best high school kicker in the world. He was absolute shit. So, like, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and everything. Kickers are just weird. They're unique. Mm-hmm. As Ty said, they have to come from, like, you have to get them out of like a meat packing plant, right? Or maybe their kicks were on YouTube or something. Those are the best kicks. North Dakota State, right? Like, or South Dakota State, wherever, I think it was North Dakota that Adam Vinatieri came from, right? And they drafted him like 4th, 5th, 6th round. And like Parcells was threatening to cut him because he wasn't making his kicks. And then one day he just made his kicks and that was it.
Hey, Brian.
But the Miami game was it. That's all I needed. The first sign I saw last year was in the Cleveland game when he missed that makeable one, right? If that's Robbie Gould, no matter how bad we play in that game, that kick is made, we go home, and it's like, wow, he stole that one, right? That gave me a concern last year when you couldn't beat Cleveland on the road. I know like people were injured and everything, but I'm like, damn, you can't beat Cleveland on the road with PJ Walker at quarterback. And because of that AFC, NFC, whatever it is, sometimes one conference is higher than the other. It's like, wow, having trouble with Cleveland, like, don't you need to beat Baltimore and Kansas City to win the Super Bowl? So it ended up being a harbinger of things to come, because even though he had that big kick in the Super Bowl, still missed that extra point, right? And I don't know how many of those extra points, those things are just momentum changers. You're getting kicked, but it's because of the low trajectory. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many, like,
what was the angle of the trajectory? How many degrees?
I don't know. I gotta go.
No one knows.
I gotta go get my Sheldon Cooper thing.
That was some BS. I'm gonna stand 10 toes down on that one. That was some BS.
That is fine, but that's all part of that.
From the
to
booth,
me, the whole,
you can see that.
From the whole thing at this point, like, the whole special teams thing stinks. Like, at this point, the exciting part is all they have to do is not cough up points next year, and they will be more successful than this year's special teams. So, yeah, Jake Moody's cooked. It's all over. I wish him the best in his future endeavors. They might still keep him and then bring on a veteran. And when the veteran kicks his ass in camp, they'll send him
Yeah.
out somewhere, and then he'll get picked
Well,
up by
that's what's going to
somebody
happen.
else.
That's
That's
what's going to
So
happen.
that's what we'll see, and that'll be it. So the Jake Moody experiment failed, and I hope they never try to like go cheap on the special teams again, because it's like putting the worst player in right
They
field,
didn't go
man.
cheap.
Well, they did something this year. I don't want to say cheap on special teams, but like it really seemed like it was an afterthought a lot of times, and maybe it's because it was just that bad. So
So here's
that
Bryant
bad.
to defend his
Yeah.
boy in the chat now.
Get to those. Dave McNiner, special teams needs way more than just a coach. Coverage unit absolutely stinks.
Yeah, 100%.
That was the worst part. That was the worst part of the Brian Schneider
mhm.
tender here. The coverage was just terrible. We've seen so
Brian
many
Colt,
big returns.
what's up, Brian?
and
Jake Moody
This
is
is bad.
solid.
Jake
Solid
Money.
crap.
We shouldn't go for 3. We need to score touchdowns. I agree. However, when you are put out there, you need to do your job. You have one job. And I
That's it.
know,
What's the offense's job?
Mhm.
They got one job.
Well,
right.
everybody's going to pick up for
Everybody has one
everybody.
job, but you know what? When you're put out there, you have to do it.
I still refer to the first Arizona game where everybody wanted to blame the defense and blame this and blame that. We had no kicker. And it was on the offense's shoulders. We, the Avengers, assemble. We got to go out there and win it. And they scored 0. Okay.
Mitch Wishnowsky too, I think, is done.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he's past his prime.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we can save a lot of money. That $3 million, that $3+ million we're spending on him, we can allocate that money elsewhere.
Bryant wants to know if we could talk about how kickoff rules changed everything.
Extra field goals and
Uh,
extra points.
I think in terms of
I don't think
just
so.
no, he's talking specifically kickoff though. But I think we need a guy who understands it and knows how to coach it and get the best out of it. Because like Brian Schneider made his money off the old rules and trying to corner kick people and pin them down inside the 20. That was his specialty, even though it never worked here. But that's another story. So with this new rule, it's like, is that going to work? No. Right? So he never seemed to adjust to it to me, and the kick coverage was still bad, just bad.
I actually have a Brian Schneider story. Last season, when we played the Commanders, I happened to be in the elevator in the hotel, going to my room. Brian Schneider was in the elevator with me. And I said, coach, good luck tomorrow. Like I always do when I see the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, are you guys ready? And he goes, I hope so.
Hope.
Just by that
Hope.
answer.
It's the Commanders who were bad last season.
Did you just say you made an educated wish? Like that's what that sounds like
Hope
to me.
in
You know
one
what I mean?
hand and piss in the other. See which
There
one
you go.
goes first.
I actually, with that answer, I was like, wow, this dude has got to go.
Yeah.
I stood in the elevator because he got off before I did. And I stood in the elevator and I'm like,
I hope so.
Yeah.
He's like, I hope so. And he just kind of like chuckled a little bit. And I'm like, all right, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Still in confidence.
Yeah.
That fills my heart with warm and fuzzies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that being said, let's go to that hurry up offense in the 2-minute warning.
Ooh. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Big Trent not retiring. Brock Purdy is the guy. For those of you all the way in the back, he's the guy.
All the way back there. You.
Deebo Samuel is staying.
Allegedly.
Sorensen may be our special teams coach. I actually like the dude from Notre Dame. Defensive coordinator, Saleh, Bradley, Ulbrich. No Staley. This is a long off season. We're all going to reset. We're going to retool. We're going to be back next season. Keep it here. We'll be with you guys all off season, chopping it up. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Get us out there a little bit more. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And shout out to Faithful Gear. Get your gear made for the faithful by the faithful at faithfulgear209.com and tie her up.
Yeah. I'm wearing my Dub City shirt because, today is a win. It was a win for the 49ers and for the fans, I feel, because you see that Kyle and John and the organization, they're not just sitting idly by. They're working now to improve for next season. They understand that this is not it, and they're going to do what they can to get right and get back to where we are. Even though this was a weird season on many levels, they don't want it happening again. So everything I heard was just win, win, win for us. And that's the way it should be. So I'm looking forward to see how this offseason plays out and what comes of it.
And also, thoughts and prayers to all the people in LA.
Yeah.
With the wildfires.
Yeah.
Becca, go ahead.
Let's see. Congrats to your boy George for winning the Len Eschmont Award.
Yes.
And Fred Warner for the Bill Walsh Award. And there's a whole slew of those awards that they handed out. So congrats to all the other players too. To Christian Juszczyk for the launch of her clothing line. It's been fun watching her craft and grow and bring that to life. So good luck to her with all of that. And yes, prayers to the Southern California, LA area wildfire. Hopefully everyone's safe and all of our Niner fans that are there, them and their families are all safe as well. And yeah, we'll be here going through everything with the off-season stuff. So, we'll see how it goes. Let's keep our head up, though. I think we're moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, Maddie.
From the toughest schedule to the easiest schedule. This has been done before, right? The fourth place schedule, huge. Just the little highlight of some of the non-division games this year include the Panthers, the Bears, the Jaguars, and the Titans, and the Saints, Giants, and Browns. Also the Colts. If that doesn't excite you guys, I can't help you. Think about it. Houston and Indy will be indoors. There'll be no weather there. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about there. There's just so many good things coming down the pike. Kyle looked pissed today, which I really enjoyed. I love Kyle looking pissed. Pissed off Kyle is my favorite Kyle. He looks like he's back with a vengeance. And you know that John really wants to pull some rabbits out of his hat. So not so fast on Debo. I think that's the plan right now, but I think Debo will still have something to say about a lot of that. So we'll see how the whole thing goes. But more importantly, we're about to be back. And I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah,
Lou Anarumo, Team Lou.
They, Kyle and John, they look different today, and they're on a mission, and it's good to see. All right, guys, we'll see you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for tuning in with us. It's good to be back, and we'll see you next week. As always, go Niners.
Go Niners. See you.
Go Niners.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the